So, hello, long time no hear from Rosie. And I know some of you have been engaged with the Universal Love curriculum for quite a while now. Some of you are newer. Some of you have been cheering us along, even if you haven't been directly involved in the evolving team and network. So, wherever you're coming from, I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for being here. This project still exists because of people like you who care and because people have been willing to patiently support and hold the vision for something that's still very much evolving and has not fit very neatly into any particular box. What I thought I would do in this video is just provide an update or kind of, I don't know, more like a check-in from the field, just giving you a sense of some of the practical things that have been accomplished, which I'm super happy about, and what's still emerging, and some exciting things that are happening in the background. Okay, so first I want to start with the most visible concrete update, which is the newly enhanced Universal Love Curriculum website. This site has been a long time coming, and it would not exist without Jessica Cristiano, whose incredible generosity and donation, not to mention dedication to this work, as a believer in the ULC and also an 8th grade teacher in the US, serving youth deep in the trenches, right? So she totally made this possible. And she's also been like a very steady presence and role model for me. She's been very thoughtful and grounded and super attuned to the realities that educators and facilitators are facing, at least in this country, and I'm sure not only in this country. So thank you, Jessica. And the site also would not exist without Jamie Rose and Chris Jepson and my sister Marilee, who've all contributed to the vision, the mission, core values, and heartfelt story that's featured on the page. Or, of course, without our Ugandan team, who've been co-creators and collaborators from the very beginning. Or without the Gene Keys and the Dream Arc and all the people, including Matthew Ashdown and, of course, Richard, Sally Middleton, who offered kind of source inspiration and so much goodwill all along the way. And then finally, the site wouldn't exist without Sissy Yee, who was our web designer, whose time was donated to us by Jessica. So Sissy really worked with me to make the site just beautiful and clear and easy to navigate. She also really helped me align the Universal Love Curriculum site with my own new Wisdom Keeper site, as I've come to kind of honor more and more the golden thread between this project and pretty much everything I've been doing for years now, which is all about empowering and nurturing wisdom keepers. And of course, in this case, it's the next generation of wisdom keepers. So what I love most about the new site now is that it actually offers doorways into the curriculum, or what I'm calling 3 ways in. And I just wanted to share a little bit more about what I'm talking about there, and why it even exists. So one of the biggest learnings for me, and honestly, something I've known at some level since I was a kid, growing up with a mom who was a teacher, and just kind of watching the educational system drift and shift dramatically over decades, is just how much pressure educators are under. And it is so not easing up, especially for those working within the system. They're navigating increasing regulations, constant evaluation, less autonomy, more paperwork, more emotional and behavioral complexity in their classrooms, not to mention dealing with AI and telephones, iPhones. We didn't have to deal with that, but oh my God, they're dealing with that now. And then somehow less time and less support and less breathing room to meet the very human needs that the kids are facing, not to mention themselves, right? And I say this because the full Universal Love curriculum that we've created is actually very deep, and it was designed as a long journey, one that really could take a group through all 12 archetypal categories inspired by the Dream Arc, the guardians, the dreamers, the healers, the journeyers, the warriors, the unifiers, the leapers, the changers, the messengers, and more. You get the idea. And it could easily unfold over the course of a full year or more, which would require a strong container and real support for whoever the facilitator is. So I want to give, before I share a little bit more about the 3 ways in, I want to give my sister Marilee a special shout out here. She's a multicultural psychologist who many of you may already know, who just poured, at least 2 years of her very little free time into helping shape and refine this deeper curriculum. So the backbone of the work carries her insight, her rigor, her care. And now, kind of as I've been listening more closely to the realities that educators are living in, and just kind of assessing where we are in the evolution of this very big project, it kind of became increasingly clear to us and to me that at least at this stage of the game, educators, facilitators are needing as much flexibility as possible, and just as we're needing feedback, right? So I made a pivot, and instead of presenting one large immersive journey as the only way in, I've created what we're calling 3 ways in with the help of my sister and my mom. So essentially, these are 3 self contained entry points, each one complete in itself. And each one says, you don't have to adopt a whole system to start exploring this material or approach. And the 3 ways offer different tastes, right? So, like different levels of depth. And importantly, they allow all of us to learn from each other. So we get to see what's resonating, what's practical, what's actually working in classrooms, in forest schools, in community groups, summer camps, homes, right? And they also allow for modularity. Certain sections, even certain exercises or handouts can stand on their own. So a teacher or facilitator who maybe can't commit to a whole year-long journey right now can still pluck out like whatever fits or feels inspiring and then adapt one of the pathways to their situation. Similar with a parent, right? A parent can try a little experience at home, and then over time, through feedback and lived experience, we have confidence that we're going to find the just right form for the fuller curriculum, whether that becomes a book, a training pathway, a certification, or something that we haven't even imagined yet. So let me just walk you through the 3 ways really briefly so you can just get a little peek. Okay, so becoming a leader, lessons from the eagle. Here is the simplest and most accessible entry point. This was totally inspired by the teachings and sharing of Samson Turanawe of Uganda, and it works with a single animal, the eagle, as a simple yet really powerful exploration of the theme of leadership. I mean, it's helped me a ton myself. So through 5 simple exercises, young people explore qualities like vision and courage and patience and inner knowing and responsibility to the wider whole. And because it's short and contained, this module can be especially useful in classrooms, mentorship settings, in families. It can be used as a short workshop, in a camp, after school program, programs that want a meaningful experience without like a huge lift. And so far, it's been a pretty easy place for people to say yes because it feels very doable and manageable, accessible. Okay, so that's the first way in. The second way in is called the Dreaming Hummingbird, and this goes a layer deeper. This is a full mini module that introduces one of the 12 archetypal pathways of the Universal Love Curriculum, and of course, the Dream Arc, called the Dreamers. So here, dreaming is not about sleep, although it can include our sleep time dreams. It's about listening. It's about imagining and intuiting and sensing what wants to emerge from our inner world, as well as what might be calling to us from the natural world. This mini module also introduces the 4 core pathways of inner listening, shared exploration, cultural threads, and field encounters, which kind of shape everything else that follows. So it includes story and individual and creative group expression, learning from wise people, from the community, giving back. It encourages people to have real encounters with the natural world, with nature. And I'd probably say that this way in is most reflective of the architecture and overall approach of the deeper curriculum journey. Okay. So the next one, creating your own dreamer family, is the third way in, and this I'm super excited about. So instead of giving people a fixed set of animals or meanings as we do in the Dream Arc, where Richard has written an entire incredible animal codex of 192 creatures, what we're doing here with creating your own dreamer family is inviting groups of kids to co-create their own constellation of dreamers, right? Rooted in their own place, their own culture, their own imagination and lived experience. So together, participants are going to be exploring dreamer qualities. They're going to identify animals in their environment that carry those qualities in their local context. They're going to build a shared reference, almost like a living collective oracle of their own. And then whatever emerges belongs to this group. And that's the point, right? It also lets us begin to gather together a global group of dreamer animals so that we can all start learning from each other and connect with the beings that we might not otherwise have access to or know or appreciate because they don't live in our area. So this process is both a complete experience in its own right, and it's also like a prototype for how future parts of the curriculum, each of the main modules, are going to unfold, since each of the categories in the main curriculum are going to start out this way, where the group of kids are going to be supported in co-creating their own group of archetypal animal guides in relation to the particular category themes and their own lived, culturally grounded environmental experience. And so I'm super excited about that. So in a way, they'll be creating their own oracle, which then they'll be kind of drawing from as they move through the rest of those main modules. And you'll understand more about that later. Okay. So now I'd like to share just a little bit about what's been going on in the field. Thanks to our extremely generous donors, and I cannot tell you how much I mean that, Samson Turanawe and a whole team of educators in Uganda are now taking all 3 ways in directly into schools and communities. This is probably like the closest thing we have to a pilot program. And the amount of gratitude I have that this is actually happening is beyond words. Not that long ago, Uganda went through a very rough time, during the elections. I don't know if you've heard about that, but our collaborators were dealing with a lot of uncertainty and instability and even danger. And we really had no idea if the curriculum pilot was even going to be safe enough for them to implement, right? So now, I'm just like knocking on all the wood I can find. Things seem to be moving forward. And Samson and his colleagues are bringing, the Eagle leadership work, dreaming practices, co-creative exploration, like directly into various communities and schools and groups of kids that are gathering for different reasons. So this work is already teaching us something really essential, which is that we're all being asked to move forward inside a world that is not necessarily stable, or ideal, right? Just like the kids and youth that we're wanting to serve in kind of learning how to navigate times of great change. We have to be agile. We have to be patient and resilient, learning how to grow this curriculum in ever-shifting circumstances. So over the next few months, I'll be able to share more with you about what's happening in Uganda. Samson and our partners over there are going to be sharing images, reflections, and stories from the field, and I just can't wait to see it myself and also to share it with you. Okay, well, another thing that's been super exciting to see is how differently people are resonating with these entry points. So, for example, a wonderful woman named Gabriela Castillo that I've been just recently in touch with. She's a trained biophysicist specializing in DNA, which is kind of interesting for us Gene Keys fans. Born in Ecuador and living in Slovakia. And she runs a nature conservation project and is working with a forest school in the Ecuadorian Amazon that partners closely with indigenous teachers. So oh my God, totally down our alley. So she's planning to, and it's all kind of in the early stages here, but she's planning to have kids create and weave their own family of dreamers rooted in local ecology and then translate the material into Spanish and Slovak and adapt the ULC for the kids and youth that she works with. So that is a dream come true for me, right? That's exactly what we've been wanting, for this to be adaptable and inspiring, not prescriptive. So that is just super exciting, and I will share more about that with you as I learn more. I also want to give a special shout out to Tannen Shunter in British Columbia, who's working with kids through something called Earth Connections. He is now returning to school, he just told me that, full time to become a certified teacher while holding a deep commitment to outdoor autonomous education. So thank you, Tannen. Keep us posted. And, he's thinking about how we might integrate the ULC as well. Now, Jessica in New York State continues to help me understand the realities of U.S. public education. Like I shared earlier, the rigorous evaluation, the requirements, the shifting regulation, rising demands on the teachers, while student readiness is just going downhill. And these conversations have just reinforced why the curriculum needs to remain, right now at least, modular, flexible, and adaptable, so nobody has to fight a system in order for their students to benefit from it. So the Universal Love Curriculum isn't here to fix the system. It's here to support the human beings that are operating inside of the system and the ones who are building new paths outside of it. Okay, so as I bring this little share to a close, I'm just trying to think, what is the gist? The gist is that this project is alive, it's well, it's moving forward. We're not trying to scale fast, right? We're focusing on rooting deeply, listening, honoring context, adapting, and trusting in what is the emergent. And if you're curious, I invite you to go a little deeper and explore those 3 ways in, and let me know how and where you might feel inspired to experiment with it. I really want to stay in touch with those of you who feel called into this. So feel free to subscribe on the website or here on YouTube to receive updates. And I'm thinking of hosting a gathering sometime soon. So if you want, just send me a little message. Say, yeah, I would like to gather again. I'd like to be part of the network. I'd love to get your feedback on that to see if it's something we should do. Okay, so thank you so much for making it all the way to the end and sending so much love.